It happened about 4 years ago. There had a lot of birds on my patio, and I just keep shooing them off. So they all fly off, except this one white bird. She didn't want to go. She wanted to come inside my screen door. Okay, I opened the screen door and she came into the house.
I can't look at the rocket launch, the trophy wives of the astronauts, and I won't listen to their words, 'cause I like birds. If you're small and on a search, I've got a fear for you to perch on. If you're small and on a search, I've got a feeder for you to perch on. I've got a feeder for you to perch on. If you're small and on a search, I've got a feeder for you to perch on. I've got a feeder for you to perch on.
It always seemed like, from the pictures that I saw, because of course, you know, it's all from pictures, it was like in the movies they met.
My parents were married in 1953. They're both born in America. My mother came from a Sephardic background. Her parents were born in Turkey. My father's also was born in America, but his parents came from Russia and Poland.
They met at a wedding of one of my mother's cousins. There was some story there, but I don't really remember it.
They met at a wedding, at a friend's wedding. My father keeps on telling us how he saw my mother, like, across the room, as they say. My mother was a beautiful woman. And my father was just so everything was there, like really, you know, the whole package. And he decided that that would be his wife.
We were a very close-knit family, but we were always Jewish. We had a good Jewish background, but never very Zionist. I don't remember Israel being very important in our family.
Well, for reasons that no one quite understood, they decided to make Aliyah and come to Israel. None of us knew any Hebrew. My father still doesn't know any Hebrew.
He's been living in Israel for 40 years, and it's still very hard for him to say a sentence in Hebrew. But my mother did learn more or less to converse and to read the paper.
The relationship between my parents was a very strong and solid relationship.
They were never separated. They did everything together.
It's like everyone knew exactly who, what they are, what their place is.
Everything that was done at home was done by my mother. And my father's job was just to work and to annoy her, which he did very well.
I imagine he was at least formally involved in some of the decision-making processes, but I doubt that he made any real decisions.
We always knew that my mother was a strong one, quiet but strong. And my father was, you know, he was always the one complaining about this, complaining about that, this hurts him, that hurts him. He always had these illnesses. He was like the sick one, more or less. There was really never a time when my mother would be in bed sick and we'd have to deal with something. She was always there. She was always a figure in the house.
They rarely argued, and when they did, words were never said. My mother would get this nasty look on her face, and she would talk in monosyllables, and then we knew that there was a problem. Never were voices raised or anything. You just knew that you did something wrong. They were happy. I think we were all pretty happy as a family.
Until age 79, my mother was in perfect health. And then all of a sudden, she had some problems. She went for checkups, and they discovered that she had cancer in her pancreas.
It was a very hard time for everyone. For my father, he could not take it all in.
He actually never believed it would happen. Really, he was living, well, my whole family was living in incredible denial.
And they kept on saying to him, "Are you prepared?" And he kept saying to us, "Why are they saying to us prepared? Why are they asking me why am I prepared? What am I prepared for?"
He just refused to accept that, he kept thinking all his life that he would go first, especially since she was a healthy one.
My mother was too tough to die. I don't believe it either. She held off, the angel of death just by sheer willpower. She was already almost nothing, but she stayed alive.
Anyway, so my mother passed away in July 2009, just a few days before Tisha B'Av.
The last years when he stopped working, they were together 24 hours a day. He was devastated.
She was like the rock. And he was very dependent on her. And when she was gone, it was something that he couldn't take in altogether.
After she left, he had just no reason for being.
She was always there doing everything for him. And all of a sudden he had to deal with things by himself.
And I remember my sister and I were here all the time. But we couldn't come to live with him. And a lot of times we would cook and leave things in the refrigerator. But he didn't want food. He wanted the idea of eating with somebody. He was just not getting up in the morning. He didn't want to get dressed. He didn't want to deal with anything. He was really sad.
I remember him saying to me, "She didn't leave me. She's here on my shoulder. She's with me all the time. She didn't leave me."
Almost 60 years married. I couldn't talk to anybody. If anybody mentioned my wife's name, I would cry. And all of a sudden, I see her walk out of the hallway from the bathroom, and she comes up. She looks so good and smiles at me. I guess it was a couple seconds, but I saw her. And really, she walked out to me. And that was a wonderful feeling. And then after that, my birdie came to me. She sent it down. She sent me my birdie down to me. That's my company.
One day we came to pick him up to go to the doctor, and it was funny, we both arrived at the same time. She lives in Jerusalem, I live in Kanya.
My sister and I came to my father's apartment. He said to us, come upstairs a minute.
You have to come up here. There's something really weird going on. And there's something you have to see. So he said, what? What is it? You'll see. Come on up here.
Come on, come here.
So we both came upstairs and he said, look.
And there was a wet tub sitting on his hand and feeding from his hand.
She came to the balcony and I tried to shoo her away, but she wouldn't go.
She just appeared and she won't leave. And we looked at each other and we said, what kind of thing is that? And he said, I don't know.
First I heard about it, my sisters told me about this bird. You have to see this bird. You gotta be kidding, you know. No, it's for real or something, you know. Well, I saw the bird and there it was. It was really sitting on my father.
Both my sister and I have a tendency to look to the mystical side of things. When there's something that can't be explained, we tend to accept things that come from the universe, and not to look for like a logical explanation.
Well, now that you're wearing that white turtleneck, I guess you really look like her mate.
What do I look like?
Her mate
Her mate.
with a white turtleneck.
I'll pull up my sleeve more. You know, when I first put this on, she wouldn't come near me. I had her slide up the sleeve so she'd see my skin color. She used the brown skin.
Beautiful white dove. And she was sitting on his shoulder. Now the first thing you say to yourself, wow, you know, and I kept remembering how he said to me, your mother never left me, she's on my shoulder.
Come.
And by the end of the week, the bird had just moved into this house. That's how the bird came into our life, and it was just unbelievable.
Sometimes if I cough, she'll hear me. She'll come down. Sometimes she's outside, and she'll fly up on the roof of the building on top. And I don't see her, and I call her. All of a sudden, I see a little face sticking out over the top of the building, looking down at me from the roof outside. And, we have a good time together. I don't think she's coming down. Let me see now. Usually she gets excited when I come into the room in the morning. There you are, come here. Come on. Come here. Oh, she's busy. She would follow me to my bedroom. She'd go to sleep above my bed, and then she would get on top of the door to the bathroom when I'm taking a shower. Okay. And then I had the shower door open slightly to see what she's doing and where she went. And then suddenly I see her on the floor. She's walking towards me, and she walked into my shower. She started raising her at my feet. She was raising her wings and getting the water and the whole shower on there like that. Well, that to me was out of this world. Okay.
In the beginning, it was something that you thought should probably fly away, but the connection between them was something that you couldn't comprehend it.
Many times I hear commotion out in the hallway, so I would open the door to see who it is, and there she is on my shoulder, and I come out to see them. They all stop talking. I see the bird there. So eventually the neighbors all referred to me as a Birdman. And that was my title.
She was always around him. She went wherever he went. She wouldn't let anybody sit in the chair where he sat. She would peck at them.
My grandson came one time and sat in my chair to watch television. And he came back, I came back, he says, "What's wrong with that bird? She attacked me." "What do you mean attacked you?" She started jumping on me. I had to get out of the chair. Great bird.
My father, for like years, would wake up for the English news at 7 in the morning and listen to the English news, and then get out of bed around 7:30. And while he was depressed, he just didn't want to get out of bed. And all of a sudden, this bird was getting him up at 7 in the morning to listen to the English news every morning.
He claimed that he would tell the bird the night before. He had to go to Kupat Cholim, has to wake up early today. Okay, 7 o'clock, the bird would wake him up, you know, okay, right, I gotta go or something. He would never share his feelings with us, God forbid. But you could see that it just made a total change in the way he felt about the world, the way he felt about himself. The bird gave him an identity, in a sense, the neighborhood. You know, he'd wander around with his bird on his shoulder. People would stop. People would start to talk with him. He was much less lonely.
Crazy flying, turns upside down at times. She doesn't fly very good. It reminds me of a paper bag floating in the wind, turning around and bouncing all off the ground. She's not a real good flyer. She's given me the company and the feeling that I have somebody with me all the time. And this is good. I mean, my children come to visit, but again, they have their own home, their own problems, their own children, and they can't be with me. I'm not happy just living in their house with them. I'll come and visit, and I'll bring the bird with me. But I can't spend time there too long. And the day is very long for a single person. Without that little company, that little bird was there, and she realizes that I'm important. It makes me feel very good. I'm very happy with her. Okay. Boy, these legs don't carry me so far. Nothing special. Only advertisements. Oh. You know, this has been very good for me. I've known my feet more than usual. Nails, girl, come on, come on. Where are you? No, there you are, sticking her little head out over the edge. Come here, little girl. She's watching. Come on, come on, come on. Here you are, here.
First Tu B'Shvat after my mother died, of course, brought the bird. So we're sitting there, and we're Sephardic. At least we were brought up as Sephardic.
And then each child would get a talega, which would be like a little sewn sack, and he would put this. He would gather different nuts and fruits and things from the table. And my grandmother started this, and my mother continued, and
of course, we have to say the brachot in theory.
So my brother went to eat a piece of fruit, and there's a tradition that you bless the fruit before you eat it. And he took the fruit and ate it, and all of a sudden, the pigeon, the dove started going wild.
She raised her wings and started flapping, and we all looked at her like it was like...
The bird is like sitting up with this expression on its face, like shocked.
We didn't know what was going on. She just started flapping, and we didn't see any cat or dog or anything around her, but she just got very upset and very anxious.
And I'm looking at this bird, and I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, everybody, looked like my mother when she was mad. She had this expression on her face, like, like once again, she wouldn't say anything, but you knew that you were in big trouble.
He said to her, oh, Mom, sorry, we forgot to say the brachot, the blessings for the fruit. There's a blessing that you say for each tug of fruit if it comes from the ground or from the tree or whatever. And he said, I'm sorry, and then she calmed down, and we said all the blessings, and then we ate the fruit.
There are certain situations with the dove that you thought right away it's my mother. The deep look that she gave the bird is like, I'm looking at you now.
Come over here, Julie. Come here. Come on, Julie. There's your cookies. What's the name of this stuff?
Crackers.
Huh?
Crackers.
No, it's got a special name there. It's the kind that Keshe eats all the time. Don't have any flour in it. Okay, here you are. Here. I felt it was Julie walking with me all the time. It was such a consolation.
I also have a second brother, Shimon, who is an integral part of our family. But in the past 15 years or so, he's become more and more religious.
We were all convinced at some stage it was my mother, but Shimon was convinced that it was an evil spirit or something, so he had to consult with various rabbis. So he consulted, and they said, yeah, it means that her spirit didn't go into the spirit world, so, you have to free her. You have to free my mother so she can go to wherever she's going to go or something.
As soon as I brought to my Shimon's house, right away he sends his son out. He comes in with a piece of an olive branch. He says, put it in the bird's mouth. The bird didn't want it.
It's something that is known in Jewish tradition, that when an animal appears after a person has passed away, it is sometimes considered the soul of the person who is trapped between the worlds. And for my brother, it was very upsetting. He thought that this bird, who is probably my mother, is trapped between the two worlds, and it is very important to let her go.
To say, to Mekureshet, and tell her to go away. So he told that to my father, and my father absolutely refused. He said, I want her to stay. I don't understand why she left in the first place, and I want her to stay.
I was in such a bad dilemma, I guess you'd call it. I couldn't talk to anybody about the dog, the bird, because as soon as I mentioned my bird, I'd start crying.
And he said, no, but Dad, you know, if her soul is not at peace, then we want her soul to be at peace. So finally he said, all right.
The bird was free. She could do what she wanted.
And we're all waiting there, and the bird's watching him, and he's watching the bird. Bird didn't go anywhere.
The bird refused to leave, and I refused to let it go either.
And he went back to the rabbis, and he said, you know, the bird didn't go anywhere. Well, how can I? Well, what kind of bird?
Then I said, it's a white dove. So that changed the whole appearance of what he was talking about.
There's a difference between a yona levana, a white dove, and a regular pigeon. So he said it was okay.
Apparently that's a good thing. So it's lucky that he didn't get her to send it away or something.
If I'm not in the kitchen, she's back. I get emotional about this thing, but I believe, and my son, the rabbi, the one who's in the school, the religious school, he says it must have come from heaven, because the bird, my Julie sent the bird to me, and that was my belief. And I really thought it was. And I thought it was Julie every time. I would talk to it. I would talk to the bird like I talked to Julie. The bird would listen to me. Good bird. My daughter lives in Kalia, and every time we had an occasion or opening or party or something, or if the weather is cold up here, go down there to warm up, the bird would come and got to know Kalia and got to know the neighborhood. I had her on my shoulder in the backyard, and I'm not sure what really triggered it off, but either she bumped into the branches of the tree, or she saw a dog or something that frightened her, and she flew up. And boy, I called her, and she never came down, and she was flying in the direction of Jericho. I thought, oh boy, for sure, we'd lose her. Then we went back to Jerusalem. My daughter, her dog Ricky was with us that time. We came back to the house, and I felt very depressed about it, losing my bird like that. And Ricky comes in first, and he's wagging his tail. Why is he doing that? Here, he saw her first. She was at the window, at the door here, the screen door, waiting to come in. Just opened the door, and there she was. She had flown, what was it, like 25 kilometers from Kalia, a kilometer high from the low level up to Jerusalem, and she made it.
It was like unbelievable. He was amazed. We were amazed and very thankful.
And that really shows the connection that they had between them. I've known to understand my father knows his body so well. Every time he says that there's something wrong, it is something that is really wrong and we have to check it. Even though we say, okay, it's just this or just that, he knows his body so well. So I went to check this heartburn that he had at the clinic near his home. And they did a KG and they did a testing, and they found that there's a problem with his heart. So we took him in to the hospital and he had to go through a open heart surgery to fix the valve that was leaking.
I think his heart broke because my mother wasn't here.
I don't think I was frightened of anything. When I was a little kid, about 10 years old, I was skating on the pavement, and near the corner, there was a drugstore, and I skated past there, and suddenly I heard a hollow sound come up as I went over that particular section of sidewalk. And I was a little boy, 10 years old, and I attended Hebrew school, and they told us stories about the Bible and about Abraham and Isaac and all the Moses, that God spoke to them and so on. And I'm telling you that somehow I thought of the stories that I learned in Talmud Torah about God spoke to me. And I was pretty sure he must have spoke to me, and I couldn't. How many times I went over that pavement back and forth on my roller skates, I never heard him talk again. So I stopped to think, why did he talk to me? What did he say? I'll be living a long time, nothing's going to happen to me. And I felt very secure. I went in for this heart operation. I wasn't scared. Very like a normal, putting a little patch on my cut sleeve or arm or something, that's all.
I remember we were waiting for him to come out of surgery, and we were waiting and waiting, and he never came to his room. And I just had this very bad feeling. So I went back to look for him down there, and I said, he never got up to his room. I don't know where my father is. So they allowed me to go in. They said, here he is.
It was a very difficult operation. At his age, he was 83.
And I looked in the bed, and that wasn't my father. I said, this is not my father.
After they finished the operation, his main artery burst open, and they had to reopen it and fix it. And he almost went on the table, as they say.
As a result, he was for about a month in intensive care.
He was not with us. It was a very, very long recuperation for him.
A friend of mine, whose son was studying in the yeshiva, asked all the yeshiva to pray for my father, and we just didn't know, he just did not seem to be leaving the intensive care, and we were very worried about him.
Tough time. We got through it though, partially because of the bird.
During this time, he said, I want to talk to my bird. So I said, okay. So he said, when you go back to the house, you put me on speakerphone and I want to talk to her. So I said, okay. So so I called him to his cell phone, and I said, okay, you're on speaker. She can hear you. So I thought he was going to say some words of love to her, something like that. I don't know what. And he said, "Get back, get back, get back." And the bird who was sitting on the television heard his voice, immediately flew back to his chair, sat down, and didn't move. He said, "What happened? Did you hear me?" I said, "Yeah, she heard you, and she flew back. She was sitting on the television, and she flew back to sit on your armchair." So he said, "Oh, okay. Because she's not allowed to sit on the television. She knows that. She can only sit on my chair or on the cage." So I said, "Oh, do you have anything else to say to her?" And he said, "No, that's it. I've said it. Bye." So then I said, "Do you want to see the bird?" They won't let me take the bird into the hospital. I'm sure it must have all kinds of... So I said, "I'll bring it outside." And by that time, he was already feeling much better, that I could wheel him outside in the wheelchair. So I went back, and it was a Shabbat, and I went back to get the bird. And she absolutely refused to go into the... I tried all kinds of things, and she refused to go into the cage. And there was no way that I was taking this bird with me in the car. The next day I came back and I said, "Let me try again." And I said, "Do you want to go see my father or not? I mean, this is the time. So you have to get in the cage, otherwise I'm not going to take you." So she flew right into the cage. I closed the door and I took the cage. So afterwards my sister said, "Oh, you know, Mom never travels on Shabbat."
I missed the bird, really. I really missed her. And she brought it to me. I went outside in the wheelchair to see my birdie. It made me feel very good.
Even though all these people were just running around and noise and everything, when she sat on his lap in the cage, he was like the calmest it could be.
Come up here.
There was a Philippine woman who I had contracted with to take care of my father. And she said, "Okay, well, I want to see him before I make a decision." And I brought her to the hospital to meet my father the same time the bird was there. And she was polite to the bird, and my father talking to the bird, and including the bird in the conversation, of course. And she ran away. We never saw her again.
So we were like, very frantic because we knew our father was supposed to get out of the hospital. He needed care. He needed somebody to take care of him. He was very weak.
It seems like everything is interconnected in life. Things that you don't know that are going to happen just happen for a reason. Everything happens for a reason.
And then they found this other woman for us. Her name was Gita. And from what I understand, the company always was offering Gita different families. And then she said, "This is the family I've been waiting for."
As a result of the broken heart, Gita was able to come in.
No, getting old, because which book I write it, I forget.
Well, you just sang it to me the other night.
Yeah, but the other line is...
Oh, one line. Oh.
Yeah. Never mind, we can sing a song without looking. La la la, la la, la la la, la 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 la. अनजाने राहों का राहों में घेरा है, अनदेखी बाहों ने हम सबको घेरा है. ये पल उजाला है, बाकी अंधेरा है. ये पल गंवाना ना हम सबको मेरा है. जीने वाले सोच ले, यही वक्त है कर ले पूरी आरज़ू. आगे भी जाने न तू, पीछे भी जाने न तू. जो भी है बस ये एक पल है.
My Julie had a collection of records, and I showed it to you, and you played them, and you picked out a few of them, songs that you thought were so nice.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed hearing that.
Yes.
I think that sold me on you.
Sorry.
And she's like family, and she takes such good care of my father. And he's so important to her, and it's not like, you know, these stories you hear about people taking care of them when they care. She really cares for him.
I forget this is I have to write here.
One day around, right before Pesach, my father came to visit me at the kibbutz. He was eating breakfast and he forgot something. He went back into the house to get it and left the bird outside for a few minutes. And something must have startled the bird. And it just all of a sudden flew. When I got up that day, I said, "Where's the bird?" And he said, "She flew away." And he wasn't concerned because this wasn't the first time that the bird had left the kibbutz and flown away. And I said, "Well, did you call her? Did you look for her?" He goes, "No, something must have startled her." And he wasn't concerned about it.
When I came home, I sat there, I guess, for 2 days looking out that window, expecting her to come flying back in.
And this time she didn't come back. And it was something that we just kept on wishing and thinking, maybe she's too heavy, maybe it'll take her longer.
He gave her another day and she never returned. We were really heartbroken.
We all wandered around looking for the bird. You know, anytime we'd see like something white or something, we'd look around.
And he kept on waiting for her and waiting for her. And when he realized that she wasn't coming back, it was like losing my mother again.
I don't think that my father ever realized what was happening, how really special this whole phenomena was of this bird. There was a thinking that any dove that he brought home would be the same.
I miss that one so much. My daughter Zimmer had worked for a group that takes care of animals.
So he kept pestering us to get a bird, get a bird.
I thought, oh, I'll get another white pigeon. And one of the ladies had a cockatoo. All right, fine. I went to the house. We picked up the little bird. She's a small one, not as big as a regular dove. Then one day, I had the door open, and she just flew out.
One time I went by a pet store and they had 2 doves. And I said, "Well, I just want one white dove." And they said, "No, but there are a couple. You can't separate doves. Once they join, they can't be separated." I brought back the 2 birds to my father and he had them for 3 months and they didn't even look at him.
They ignored me completely. They would go out of the house, they were trained here, and they would stand on a roof somewhere.
They refused to take any food from him. They got very startled when he tried to get near them. It was like two wild animals,
and that wasn't what I looked for. I looked for them that took care of me, watched me.
And all of a sudden came up this ad that somebody had found this white bird in Jerusalem, and it was wounded, and he had put it in a cage. And I wrote a letter saying that this might be the bird that we've been looking for, and if he could notify me. And he said, yes, he has the dove. Whenever my father's ready, he should come and get it.
What's his name? Badr. Okay, fine. Badr.
At that time, we really didn't want to go into East Jerusalem. You know, I didn't know my way around there. I wasn't too security-wise, wasn't real happy about driving around there. For some reason, I sat in the back seat and my father drove. My father didn't know where he was going.
And all of a sudden, we had a flat tire. This one's busy, go in there, go here, go there. So we finally ended up in this tiny little alley, a hole in the wall, basically. You can't even drive the car inside. So I go in there, talk to the guy, and said, by chance, do you know anybody named Badu that has like birds around here?
And then the guy looked at him very weirdly and he said, why are you asking?
And he looks at me, yeah, that's my father. What? So,
It was a disappointment. I felt bad.
Nothing compared to this miracle dove. I mean, it was so different.
And that was a lost cause. So I decided I think I had enough of birds and doves. I don't think I want to see anymore.
अनजाने राहों का राहों में तेरा है अनदेखी बाहों ने हम सबको घेरा है ये पल उजाला है बाकी अंधेरा है ये पल गंवाना ना हम सबको तेरा है जीने वाले सोच ले नहीं वक्त है करके पूरी आरज़ू आगे भी जाने न तू पीछे भी जाने न तू जो भी है बस ये एक पल है
I kept thinking that this was my mother's way of telling me that the bird can't come back and she can't send him back.
It wasn't easy for any of us, but I think to have this unbelievable creature come into our lives and to take care of our father,
I know that there are many things that we don't know. It's not going to make me go up to be a yogi or something in India. I'm not that kind. But it does make you wonder.
I think it's only once in a lifetime that you see these things come, and it's a gift. Not everybody gets to enjoy these gifts that they get. Many things that happen to us in life, they're there, but we're just not aware of them. We don't see them because we just can't imagine that it can be possible, so that we close ourselves off to all these miracles that happen to us each day.